When I first time moved to the Netherlands, I didn't know much about the country's culture or the Dutch people. I have lived in different countries before, but mainly as a digital nomad who is almost a tourist. So I had no idea what challenges I'd face moving to another country permanently. Hey everyone, I'm Dmitry and I moved to Holland almost 2 years ago, and today I want to discuss the challenges I faced during my time in this country and whether I managed to adjust to them. Let's dive into it. One of the first shocks you may face here is Dutch directness. People say what they think straight up without sugarcoating. Hello Dmitry, today we would like to make your annual performance review. You know, you write a good code, but you need to do it faster. Also, to be honest, you drink too much coffee. Okay, it's just on my previous job I had a little bit more time in cycles. To be honest, I love coffee. Yeah, okay, but here in a Dutch company we do things quickly. It is better, don't you think? I guess. Okay, you may pass with your coffee addiction, but definitely keep the speed of the code writing in mind. Okay, review is over. Fine da. Okay. I'm originally from Russia and I think we even more direct in some senses, but mostly in the negative feedback, and sometimes Russian people can be border rude. I've never experienced rudeness in the Netherlands. Usually people say directly what's on their mind, but never rude. But if you are doing something wrong, remember you might get a direct feedback not to do it or do it differently. Nobody is trying to offend you, it's just much more efficient to just say straight to your face. It wasn't hard for me to adjust to this culture because I'm basically used to the same. It was more or less a happiness for me that nobody is actually rude compared to my native country. The next one is planning in advance, and that's where I'm fit right in, because in my home country we never plan anything, and usually people try to wing it most of the time, and I never really liked it. And I know some of the cultures like Spain or Portugal even more spontaneous. I'm a prominent opponent of planning. I really want to know what's happening on my calendar in the next week, next month, and sometimes even through the whole year. So this part of Dutch culture is really close to my heart. The first thing where you encounter this will be probably at your work, when you will be asked to plan your vacations through the whole year. I think it's pretty common. Of course you can change it a little bit later, but it's pretty common to have at least a vague plan for the whole year for the teams, so they exactly know who is available and who is not. Next cultural shock was my personal, and I still hate it, to be honest. It's the fireworks. In many places around the world people celebrate New Year's Eve with fireworks, and in my home country as well. Something is a little bit different here. I would say it's just borderline crazy what's happening in New Year's Eve. I guess maybe because most of the year it's forbidden, so people trying to make as much fun and as much noise as possible during the New Year's Eve days, especially in The Hague, where one of the biggest craziness of fireworks happens. I just didn't feel safe in some areas, to be honest. This last New Year we went to The Hague. Some of the corners of the streets there were a lot of paper burning. It was also raining, so some of the fireworks weren't working properly. A couple of times the fireworks rockets were just falling down and shooting straight at us, so we even have to run a little bit from them. It looks like a war zone at some point. Fireworks hitting cars, windows, and I really respect traditions, but this one I will just try to avoid for the next New Year's. There are plenty of space where you want to face the fireworks. It even begins not in New Year, but a couple of days before. So if you're in the Netherlands, listen to the advice from this legendary video.
Group responsible, the group that wreaks havoc, craves destruction, and must absolutely be avoided at all costs. 13-year-old boys. Survival tip: see one, run.
The next one is public restrooms, or rather lack of them. I never actually thought it can be an issue of not having a public toilets outside until I moved to the Netherlands. I really love to walking outside with a cup of coffee in my hand, so sometimes I just really want to pee. There are not many places to go. I noticed this is not only in the Netherlands, the similar issue is in the Germany, and first I thought maybe it's the whole Europe like this, but I just came back from Spain, from Valencia, and there are public restrooms everywhere, so I guess it's a country per country basis. For a male like myself, it's partly solved with the public urinals outside, which is kind of unique thing here in the Netherlands, but for my wife it's of course a little bit harder. I recently discovered a little hack that most of the stadkamers or public libraries, they have public toilets, and also all of the museums. So if you have a museum card, for example, it's great if you like visiting museum. So you also can use this as a loophole to use their public restrooms. Not sure what part of the government is responsible for this, but please use my tax money that I pay to put the public restrooms. But yeah, let's move from the toilet topic. Making friends as an expat living abroad is hard everywhere in the world, but in the Netherlands it can add additional barriers. Dutch people, as I noticed, they really tend to have this close circle of friends from the school or maybe university, and they tend to stick with it through the most of their lives. Of course, there are exceptions, like people moving to another cities across the country, but it's more rare. Many people I notice have this little circle and they tend to stick with it. Of course, learning Dutch will certainly help to make Dutch friends, but for me it's still a little bit of struggle. I will update you when I learn Dutch if it's easier to make friends or not. In the Netherlands, I think they had expats for a long time ago. They were accepting foreigners. You as a foreigner are not very interesting person. Also, everybody speaks English. It's kind of like the usual, especially in big cities where most of the foreigners live, and there are like half of the city of them. Because in my country, in Russia, it's a little bit different. If you are a foreigner, you will be interesting. Everybody want to make friends with you. Everybody will want to talk with you, ask all the cultural questions. In the Netherlands, it's not like this. Nobody really cares. But the good thing that because there are so many expats in the country, it's much easier to find other expats and make friends with them. Even in the small cities, there are some kind of expats communities, unless, of course, you're living in Zwolle. No, of course, I'm joking. Of course, we have expats in Zwolle too. It's just the percentage of foreigners here a little bit lower than in big cities like Utrecht or Rotterdam. But to be honest, I'm sure it's possible to make friends in any city on the planet. I can't really say I'm trying to make friends a lot. Currently, it's just work is my best friend. Let's move on, shall we? Another thing I absolutely love is how independent kids are in the Netherlands. I don't have kids personally, it's mostly my observations. I don't think Dutch kids are put in the box by their parents or society, which is certainly the case in my home country. My parents were actually quite progressive, so I can't complain, but you still put in a little constraints by the society and school. You have to get married, you have to get a big car, you have to get an apartment, you have to get at least 2 kids, and it's everything until you turn 25. And in this state, I'm only half joking. There were also a lot of black and white when I was growing up. This is bad, this is good, do this, don't do this. Many of these things are stereotypes or just complete lies. And as I can understand, Dutch kids are never put into these boxes, and they are given freedom of choice, freedom of independence, freedom of action, and it's always provided to them by their parents or the society. Also, I really love that Dutch parents rarely or even never scream at their kids. At least they never do it in public. In Russia, it's really common to see the parents spanking the kid, for example, on the back of the head or on the bum. and screaming on them that they're doing something wrong. It always cringes me a little bit when I see this. Another one that gets many critiques from expats from other countries is food. I can imagine that people from countries like Spain or France or Italy would hate the food here, absolutely. And not only the food itself, the dishes and the meals, but also the culture about the food. Dutch people don't really celebrate it as some countries do. Having a meal, it's not something sacred or something you would really spend time on preparing, sitting with the whole family near the table. Sometimes Dutch people just eat on the go, and the food often is pretty simple. This is actually where I'm also fit right in. I never really cared about food that much. Half of my youth and teenage years I was eating noodles with sausages and I was completely happy, or maybe sometimes dumpling. Of course, after traveling the world a little bit more and learning about health consequences for unhealthy food, I started my better relationship with food than I have in my teenage years. I recently started cooking and learning a little bit more about different types of food and nutrition. I also really like to try different types of dishes, especially in some cultures while I'm traveling, but it's never a goal. It's more like a nice bonus for me. I would never travel somewhere to just try their food. I'm still perfectly okay with eating something on the go, especially with a busy lifestyle. It seems like a perfect fit. I still perfectly love sandwiches and I think they are amazing. So great. One thing I still don't get is sweets on breakfast, especially hagelslag. This is very weird. And the last part that might shock you after moving to the Netherlands, paradoxical openness, but also people here are reserved at the same time. To be honest, I'm still a little bit confused about this one, and if there are Dutch people watching this, please shine some light for us. I'd appreciate it. At one hand, it's very tolerant and open culture. Everybody has a huge windows, you can see through the whole house, and people rarely use blinders. Also, urinals on the street, as I already mentioned, so you just pee on the street. And also people never ashamed of naked bodies. For example, if you go to the sauna, everybody is naked there and they all together. The culture is also very tolerant. No matter what you do, no matter how you look, what you say, you usually will be welcomed and everybody will treat you equally. On the other hand, Dutch people is very reserved. They never try to stick out. Famous phrase, doe normaal, is a very good expression to summarize my experience as well. Usually people are well dressed, but never anything fancy or colorful or anything that actually seems like different from everybody else. The houses look pretty much the same, both inside and outside. If you've been looking for a house, you know that interiors are very similar here. People drive more or less regular cars. They're usually good cars, but they kinda regular. Nobody is showing off or brag or shows too much personality or show their weird parts or too much emotion and so on. I really like actually this part of Dutch culture. You always feel free and welcomed here, but also I'm just curious and I couldn't crack how openness and closeness coexist in the same country and the same culture, and I would really love to learn more about this. Living in the Netherlands have been amazing for me, and I'm really happy I moved to this country, and hopefully someday I will make a pretty good Dutch citizen. But all cultures are different, and no matter where you go, you will notice there will be some adjustment you will make in your lifestyle or even inside your personality. The main advice I have for everyone who is looking to move to another country: pick the culture that is close to your heart and to you personally. In that case, you will most certainly be most happiest person on the earth. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you like this culture shock review. Subscribe on my channel, give this video a thumbs up, check my other videos about life in the Netherlands, and see you in the next one. Doei!